Welcome to Brother Owl's Garden. I'm Brian. I honor your presence. Thank you for being here. Today, I'd like to talk about something that Yeshua the Christ taught us 2,000 years ago. His disciples approached him and they said, "Lord, how should we pray? What's the right way that we should pray?" And it was then that Yeshua, Jesus, uttered what we now call the Lord's Prayer. And in this prayer, he honors God, thanks God for providing for us, and requests that God continue to bestow his favor upon us. Now, again, I know that some people don't, they don't prefer to use the word God and say, "Oh, you said his," and all that. Please let all that go. Your understanding of the supreme being, the supreme cosmic consciousness, this is the entity of which I speak. You know that. And so getting back to Jesus, Yeshua. By the way, Christ is not a name. Christ is a title. And so when you say Jesus Christ, it's almost like there should be a comma in there. Jesus Christ. And the same goes for the Buddha. The Buddha is not a name, it's a title. Buddha means awakened one, and Christ means anointed one. And also Yeshua means he who saves. So the name itself is very poignant. As the Buddha spoke a language called Pali, Yeshua spoke a language called Aramaic, not Latin. He spoke Aramaic and Hebrew most likely as well. But Aramaic would have been his mother tongue. And for those who find value in praying the Lord's Prayer, the Our Father as we call it, you should keep in mind two things. Anytime something is translated into another language, I'm sorry, it loses something or something is changed and therefore lost. And I definitely do not believe that the English translation of the Lord's Prayer is perfectly, literally, exactly what the Christ said. It's nice and it's wonderful, but I don't believe that's his exact words. So if you're seeking to be a little more purist, like I am, and you want to include the Lord's Prayer as part of your sadhana, and repeat the words that Yeshua the Christ taught to us, but you would prefer to do it as close as humanly possible to the words he uttered, then I'm glad to introduce you to the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic. Now, there are differing dialects of Aramaic. So for those of you who may already know a certain version of a dialect, and it differs in any way from the dialect that I'm using here, please let that go. And the fact is that none of us were there to hear the exact accent that he had, an exact dialect he spoke, an exact syntax he chose. But to the best of my personal ability, this is the dialect that is believed by scholars to be the most likely, exact, perfect, accurate one that Yeshua spoke. And then this is me transmitting it to you through the lens that is me. So in other words, I don't speak Aramaic fluently. I don't even speak Aramaic at all. But this is my very best attempt to pronounce as perfectly as possible the most accurate version that I could ever find of the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic. So I'm going to speak it to you slowly so that you can get a sense of the sound. And then I'll just recite it in a normal cadence. And you can use this video to help you learn it. And if you look in the description, I've provided my best attempt at the transliteration of these words in Aramaic into what makes the clearest amount of sense in English. I do not write Aramaic either. I have phonetically transcribed these words to look as close as possible logically to how they sound. So this is my best attempt. And if you can learn this, I think it is more than adequate. You can use this anytime you pray the Lord's Prayer. So here we go. Abwoon de bashmaya, nitka di shmaakh, Teytey malkutaakh, hwey sebya'naach, Aykanna de bashmaya af ba'ar'ah. Havlaan lachmaa desun khanaan yaomana. Washboklaan haobeyn wahktaheyn. Aykana daaf khanaan shwakanala khayabeyn. Wela tachlaan min bisha. Metoll delaach-hey malkutaah waheyla wateshbuktah almin. Ameyn. This is the best rendition I can offer of the Lord's Prayer as Jesus most likely spoke it in Aramaic. The first line, Abwoon de bashmaya, Abwoon de bashmaya. Second line, nitka di shmaakh, nitka di shmaakh. Third line, Teytey malkutaakh, Teytey malkutaakh. Fourth line, hwey sebya'naach, Aykanna de bashmaya af ba'ar'ah. Hwey sebya'naach, Aykanna de bashmaya af ba'ar'ah. Fifth line, Havlaan lachmaa desun khanaan yaomana. Havlaan lachmaa desun khanaan yaomana. Sixth line, Washboklaan haobeyn wahktaheyn. Washboklaan haobeyn wahktaheyn. Seventh line, Aykanna daaf khanaan shwakanala khayabeyn. Aykanna daaf khanaan shwakanala khayabeyn. Eighth line, Wela tachlaan Wela tachlaan Ela patzan min bisha. Ela patzan min bisha. The ninth line, Metoll delaach-hey malkutaah waheyla wateshbuktah almin. Ameyn. Metoll delaach-hey malkutaah waheyla wateshbuktah almin. Ameyn. So I'm going to speak it very slowly, and then I'm going to speak it again in a normal cadence. If you want, you can just record this video on one of the websites that allows you to do that, and make an audio recording for you to just listen to it, because the very best way to learn this prayer is to listen to it as you're reading it, but don't try to speak it for countless times. Just get it programmed into your head, the sound of the words, and then at some point begin to speak in unison with the recording, 1 or 2 lines at a time. This took me countless repetitions before I memorized it and made it my own, so to speak. So let's read it slowly now and just listen to the sound. Abwoon de bashmaya, nitka di shmaakh, Teytey malkutaakh, hwey sebya'naach, Aykanna de bashmaya af ba'ar'ah. Havlaan lachmaa desun khanaan yaomana. Washboklaan haobeyn wahktaheyn. Aykanna daaf khanaan shwakanala khayabeyn. Wela tachlaan Ela patzan min bisha. Metoll delaach-hey malkutaah waheyla wateshbuktah almin. Ameyn. Abwoon de bashmaya, nitka di shmaakh, Teytey malkutaakh, hwey sebya'naach aykana de bashmaya af ba'ar'a. Havlaan lachmaa de khanaan yaomana. Washboklaan haobeyn wahktaheyn. Aykanna daf khanaan shwakanala khayabeyn. Wela tachlaan linesyunna. Ela patzan min bisha. Metoll delaach-hey malkutaah waheyla wateshbuktah almin. Ameyn. I hope that you can incorporate this into your personal daily prayer practice, your sadhana, if it suits you. I find great satisfaction in reciting this prayer in as close as possible to the way that the Christ actually said it, rather than 3 or 4 language, 3 or 4 generations of language translated. So this is the best that we can derive, he said. And you can meditate on the meanings of each phrase as you wish. But I hope that this has been useful and helpful to you. And it is the first in a few such prayers and mantras that we'll be examining. And I hope that you like it. Thank you again for visiting today at Brother Owl's Garden. And remember to abide in thankfulness for your highest good in the most benevolent